The movie begins with people wearing masks and some are struggling to breathe. A lady walks elegantly to present a formula known as air designed to help with the current intoxication that makes the air unbreathable. It turns out this is just an ad and the head of the product, Eric, is overseeing the advertisement procedures. A scientist known as Solomon reveals that the product will soon run out of supply when the public demands more of it. A hologram of the Earth shows the affected areas which encompass almost the entire planet. The scientist hopes to create an alternative to the advertised product, which is Aram, so people can survive. Elle is a model hired by Elle to advertise the formula to the public. She's the perfect candidate for the ad because of her looks, which makes most of the other models jealous of her. While in the restroom, they talk about her mother who took her own life, which has made Elle socially awkward. She calls her boyfriend Tully to come pick her up, but he declines, saying he's having a party at his house and wouldn't make it. It turns out that Tully is lying and is driving into town with her best friend Gina. Although Gina feels bad that she's having an affair with Tully and tells him about it, Tully reminds her that Elle never cares about anyone or relationships, as she easily gets bored of those things. As they drive through some dilapidated buildings, they finally arrive at the location where they intend to get some liquid substance for the party. Meanwhile, Elle goes down to a train station, where homeless man keeps talking about how the Earth has been populated by humans and that Mother Earth is doing her cleansing. A little girl recognizes Elle from the ad showing in the background and thinks she's lucky because people rarely have jobs these days. Elle then calls Gina through an electronic device they wear in their ears. She tells Gina she's been calling her but she hasn't been picking up, reminding her that she freaks out whenever she doesn't pick up. Elle apologizes, saying she was in the shower when she called. Gina genuinely asks Elle if she truly loves Tully or if she's only having him around for fun, and Elle confesses that feelings are exhausting before ending the call. Tully tries to buy the drugs he'll be using for his party, but the dealer refuses to sell, saying he's out of supply. Gina shows up and says she needs to use the bathroom, so the dealer allows them in. Meanwhile, a TV broadcast shows the head of research at Aethera Corp, Eric, being interviewed. When he's asked about the shortage of the drugs, he shares that they are producing enough Aram and will soon reach the population in desperate need of it. He also reveals that the population still needs to wear masks to prevent exposure, and Aram only neutralizes the toxins. Gina takes a long time in the bathroom, so Tully has to go check on her. One of the men follows him, and it turns out he's a dealer, so he sneaks out some of the drugs for Tully. While looking around, Tully stumbles upon Solomon and his partner working on a new formula. The news is still ongoing when a caller known as Lazarus asks about the supply of Aram to the Red Zone, which is the most affected part of the world and is receiving a limited amount of the formula. Eric gives a vague reply, and the caller proceeds to ask more questions about the shortcomings of the company, which makes Eric angry, and he leaves the show. Meanwhile, Solomon is testing his formula on himself and gets a mild reaction. Tully is able to sneak around and take one of the formulas without Solomon and his partner noticing. The dealer soon comes with a separate one that Tully requested, and Gina also comes out from the bathroom so that they leave immediately. Eric receives a call from his father, asking him about the call he received during the broadcast, saying the investors of the company are panicking because of the short supply of Aram, and Eric assures him he will handle it. Eric gets to his lab and instructs his personal assistant Angela to track the IP address of the anonymous TV caller Lazarus. Elle gets home and looks at an image of her mother when a holographic call from her dad comes up. He says he's stuck in London because of work and won't be coming back anytime soon. He shares that he doesn't like it when she's all alone and asks about her friends. Elle doesn't want to party because she feels that nobody really likes her, so she prepares to spend her time alone but gets angry when her dad reminds her that no one takes her seriously. In the following scene, Elle is already dressed up and goes to Tully's house party. He's trying to cook up the formula he stole earlier from the scientist and asks Gina to try it out, but she's scared as she doesn't know what it does after intake. Meanwhile, Elle enters the hall and finds everyone having a good time. When she's called, she simply ignores the girl and asks a random guy where she can find Tully. Tully is about to give Gina a taste of the formula when Elle enters the room. They are surprised to see her because she said she wasn't coming earlier. Gina rushes to apologize to Elle, but Elle is disappointed that her best friend would go behind her back to be with her boyfriend. Tully, tired of their relationship, walks out on her, which makes Elle really mad at herself. When she sees the formula lying on the floor, she takes it and gulps it down in frustration. Meanwhile, Eric is experimenting on a rat by inducing a synthetic formula to see if it can withstand the atmospheric toxins. Elle begins to feel disoriented and distorted. A random guy from the party sees her in that condition and tries to help, but Elle girl pushes him away and leaves. Inside Eric's lab, the poor rat couldn't survive the toxins and dies, indicating that the formula, which is supposed to serve as a substitute for the mask and Aram, isn't working, he becomes really frustrated, and when Angela comes in with the news of Lazarus's location, he doesn't care anymore and tells her to go home. On the other hand, Ella starts feeling hot and drowsy, so she takes off her clothes and gets into the bathtub to cool herself. Her body starts to react to the drug, causing some kind of mutations, whereby her DNA splits in two, causing her to lose consciousness. Solomon and his henchmen soon arrive at the party, looking for Tully. Tully sees them and runs into the bathroom. The men easily find him and ask about the formula he stole from them, saying it's dangerous and unstable for human consumption. He tries to lie about it, but after receiving some punches, he confesses that he doesn't have it with him. He concludes that someone from the party must have taken it, so they go out in search of anybody behaving abnormally. Ella wakes from the bathtub, and to Tully's shock, she tells him about the formula, saying she drank it and doesn't know what's happening to her. Tully tells her to wait there, so he quickly locks her up and goes to call Solomon. But as soon as he enters the room, she seems to have disappeared. Everyone thinks he's lying, so one of them tries to choke him when he suddenly pulls out a gun. However, they work together and easily take him down. During the struggle, Tully mistakenly shoots himself in the leg and passes out. Not wanting to leave him to bleed out, Solomon ties a belt around the gunshot wound so he doesn't bleed to death. His partner, Spider, goes downstairs to inform the people that the police are coming, so everyone runs outside. When Tully wakes up, he's shocked to see Ella hanging from the ceiling like a spider. She loses her grip and falls to the floor. Tully can't believe his eyes and is still in shock at what he's seeing. Ella shows him a mark on her wrist, not knowing what's going on with her. She tries to leave, but the door is locked. She gets furious and punches a hole through the door. Seeing the people looking for her downstairs, she goes back to the room to find another exit. When she looks around, she finds a glass vent on the ceiling. She uses a hairdryer to break it. Since they don't have their masks with them, Ella shares her Aram pill with Tully. The gang hears the noise of the shattering glass and goes after them. They make it to the roof and Tully mistakenly slips. Ella tries to grab hold of him, but he falls to his death. Gina sees this and blames her for killing Tully. Ella tries to explain, but she's unable to because of the people chasing her. In a panic, she runs away and ends up collapsing in front of the car of the random guy from earlier. He carries her to his house and, wanting to get frisky with her, leans in. Ella wakes up and instinctively pushes him away, not realizing that a claw from her body has caused him to bleed. Panicking, Ella rushes to the bathroom, where she uses scissors to cut off the claw. Afterward, she goes out to look for help. She goes to the hospital, where a lot of sick patients are laying around, in need of immediate help. The nurse on duty tells her to wait, since she's not having breathing problems. She shows her the mutation on her skin, and the nurse thinks she needs to be quarantined immediately, calling security. Ella runs away, trying to escape from security. She stumbles upon a patient room, and suddenly, she grows some spiky ligaments on her palms. Climbing the wall, she uses her hand gestures to tell the patient not to say anything. When security checks the room, not seeing Ella, they leave. As a thank you, Ella gives the patient all her Aram. The commissioner of police brings the report and footage from the incident to Eric, who tells her to make sure none of this gets to the press, and gives her a lifetime supply of Aram for her and her family. Ella goes to meet her best friend. She sees her and quickly runs back, scared for her life. Ella is fast and catches up with her, begging for help, saying she doesn't know what's wrong with her. She checks herself in the mirror and finds that her body is drastically mutating, as her nails are beginning to fall off. After applying makeup to make her face not look like a monster, Ella is mad at Gina when she finds out that Gina was with her dead boyfriend, Tully, when she called and lied about her whereabouts. Ella apologizes but reminds her about her bad attitude in relationships. She receives a call from Solomon, who tells her to come to a secluded location alone so they can reverse the situation. When she finally gets to the location, she's kidnapped by Solomon's henchmen while Gina tries to call the police. Ella is tied to a chair, but when she wakes up, she uses a claw from her body to cut herself loose. She begins to devour some raw meat left on the table. Solomon comes in and tries to calm her by explaining that he's the scientist who created the formula and wants to help her. Instead, she spits at Spider to keep her at bay, causing severe burns and pain. Meanwhile, the cops soon arrive, and Solomon gives Spider the last formula, telling her to leave since he can't leave without Ella. Ella is arrested for the death of Tully, and Solomon is arrested alongside her since he's found in the same room and tagged as an accomplice. Outside, Ella begs Gina to tell the police she didn't commit any crime. It turns out that Gina was the one who called the cops on her. Inside the prison cell, Ella begins to feel some crippling pain. When she checks, her ear falls off, revealing a new mutated ear that's similar to an elf. She cries out to Solomon, who's in the next cell, about the drug turning her into a monster. Solomon explains that he created the formula as a substitute for Aram because a lot of people are going to die once the population can't get enough supplies of the product. Soon, Eric walks in, and it turns out that Eric was one of the scientists who created the formula. Eric sees Elle, and she shows him what the drug has done to her. Eric assures her that he will provide a solution to reverse the damages, but first, they need to take her to his lab. Meanwhile, Spider is somewhere watching everything and eventually follows them to the Aethera Corporation at the facility. Eric convinces Elle that they need to run some tests on her to determine how to help her recover, and she's induced with some anesthesia. After the test, they discover that her DNA has been split into two halves, one being that of a foreign entity. Meanwhile, Solomon is being tortured to give up his research and share how he's able to create such a miracle, which has taken millions of dollars and years of research, up to no avail. Solomon refuses to give him the answer he wants because of his greed. Eric reveals his plan to make sure Aram only gets to the rich people who can afford it, while the rest who can't would be dead, thereby securing enough for the future generations of the wealthy. He wants them to work together to share the formula, but Solomon refuses to be part of his plans. Eric goes to Elle and explains to her that the drug in her system contains a retrovirus, which has led to her mutation. The company's Aram would soon run out, and in her DNA holds the key to creating even more sustainable supplies of it. He intends to help her reverse the damage so she can go back to her normal life, and in return, she has to sign a document that allows them to undergo the procedures. In a call with his dad, the CEO of Aethera, Eric reveals his true intentions to replicate her mutation in another species so they can create a new population to harvest from, which means an unlimited supply of a new formula of AI remedy. Eric's father doesn't want a human experimentation, especially on Elle, since his dad is a diplomat in the UK. Eric tells him not to worry about it as Elle is wanted for the killing of his boyfriend Tully. And also the document she just signed covers just enough for him to make it look like she disappeared. For safety measures, he promised the commissioner of police a lifetime supply of Aram for her and her extended family. Two scientists come to prepare her for extraction, and simultaneously, Spider is able to pass the security checkpoint. The men think Elle is unconscious when she suddenly wakes up, attacks them, and easily takes them out. She goes out to look for Solomon. Meanwhile, Eric is at the airstrip to receive his son when he receives a call that Elle is trying to escape the facility. She finds Solomon and reveals that her entire body is changing, and she's scared of what she's turning into. He promises to help her, but first, they need to make it to a lab, so the duo runs through the alley and into a vent. Spider makes it to the facility, plants a bomb, and warns everyone in the building to evacuate in 9 minutes. Inside the lab, Solomon shows Elle the consueta, a dragonfly species that's not affected by the atmospheric toxins, and that's the formula her DNA has been induced with. Elle asks why they don't experiment on animals instead of humans, and he explains that people would still rely on masks and Aram to survive. Eric takes his son to Angela for her to babysit him, but she soon leaves the poor child all alone in his father's office. Eric instructs all his security officers to track down the duo. While trying to escape the lab, Elle stumbles upon Eric's child, who sees her and thinks she's a fairy. Elle promises to protect him, and together they try to escape, only to be cornered by Eric, who threatens to shoot her with a tranquilizer, not minding his son. Elle tries to escape by jumping through the stair walls and joins Solomon and Spider in the elevator. Outside the corp, Spider manages to drive past Eric and his men, but the car gets shut down by security at the checkpoint. When they check the bus, they discover that Solomon and Elle are missing. Meanwhile, Elle and Solomon are on their way to the city when they reach a point where they have to jump. Solomon tells her to go without him and gives her the coordinates to find Lazarus, who would help produce more of the formula for the public. Spider shares a broadcasted message where she takes the blue formula and tells everyone to do the same if they want to survive. Elle is able to find Lazarus in his hideout, and it turns out to be Angela, the personal assistant to Eric, who's the mastermind. The movie ends with Elle fully transformed as her wings sprout. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more.